When someone hurts you, the instinct might be to shrink back, to put up walls, to let that wound define who you are. But let me remind you of something. Pain is part of the human experience, and it's not the pain that defines you. It's what you do with it. Pain is inevitable in life. It finds us all, no matter how carefully we navigate our paths or how much we try to protect ourselves. It's easy to feel trapped in that pain, to believe it is a stopping point rather than a passageway. But here's the truth. Pain, as hard as it is to bear, carries with it the potential for transformation. It can be a teacher, a guide, and even a source of strength if we allow it to be. When you're hurt, it's tempting to view the pain as the end of the story. The moment someone breaks your trust, the heartbreak of a loss or the sting of betrayal can feel like the conclusion of something vital in your life. And while the pain is real and it deserves to be acknowledged, it's not the full story. It's a chapter, not the book. Pain can act as a catalyst for growth because it forces us to look within. When we experience hurt, it invites us to examine our values, our boundaries, and our vulnerabilities. It's in those moments of discomfort that we uncover the truths we might otherwise ignore. Who am I when everything feels broken? What do I value most when the noise of everyday life quiets down? How can I rebuild, not just to get back to where I was, but to become something stronger, something wiser? Growth doesn't mean pretending everything is fine or dismissing the impact of what happened. It means leaning into the pain, feeling it fully, and allowing it to do its work. This process can be messy and uncomfortable, but it's also where resilience is born. Like muscles that grow stronger through strain, our hearts and minds expand when we face challenges head on. Think about the people who inspire you the most. Odds are they've faced pain too, possibly pain that could have broken them. But they didn't stop there. They turned their wounds into wisdom and their struggles into strength. They chose to let their pain be a stepping stone rather than a roadblock. That's not because they were immune to despair, but because they saw beyond it. Turning pain into growth doesn't mean ignoring what happened or pretending it doesn't hurt. It means deciding that the hurt won't define you. It's about taking ownership of your healing, one step at a time. It's about realizing that the pain isn't the final word. It's the push that propels you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. So, when pain comes knocking, don't see it as a permanent stop. Instead, see it as an opportunity to become more of who you're meant to be. It won't be easy, but growth rarely is. And when you come out on the other side, you'll find that the pain you once feared became the fire that forged your strength. That's the power of viewing pain as a catalyst for growth. You're not stuck, you're evolving. And that is a journey worth embracing. Vulnerability often gets a bad reputation. We're taught to see it as a flaw, as something to hide or protect against. Society tells us to be strong, to stay guarded, to never let anyone see us falter. But let's pause and rethink that for a moment. What if vulnerability isn't the enemy we've been told it is? What if vulnerability, rather than being a sign of weakness, is actually the most courageous thing we can embrace? Vulnerability is the willingness to show up fully, even when there are no guarantees. It's the act of putting your true self out there, your feelings, your hopes, your fears, without knowing how others will respond. It's standing in the messy, unpredictable middle of life and saying, "This is me, all of me." That's not weakness, That's bravery. Think about the times in your life when you've been truly courageous. Maybe it was saying, "I love you" first. Maybe it was starting over after a failure. Maybe it was admitting you needed help. Every one of those moments required vulnerability. They demanded that you take off the armor and step into uncertainty, knowing full well that things might not go as planned. That's what makes vulnerability the birthplace of courage. But there's more to it. Vulnerability is also where resilience begins. Life will throw challenges at us, some small, some life-altering. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space to process those challenges honestly. We give ourselves permission to feel, to grieve, to acknowledge the weight of what we're carrying. And in doing so, we build the emotional strength to move forward. Resilience isn't about never falling, it's about learning how to rise. And vulnerability is the foundation of that process. Of course, vulnerability isn't easy. It takes practice and intentionality. It requires us to let go of the myth of perfection and embrace the reality of being human. It means showing compassion to ourselves when we stumble and extending grace to others when they do the same. Vulnerability asks us to lean into discomfort, and that can be terrifying. But the alternative, living behind walls of self-protection, is far more isolating. When you reject vulnerability, you cut yourself off from meaningful connection. You can't experience true love, trust, or belonging if you're not willing to show your authentic self. You might think you're protecting yourself, but what you're really doing is limiting your life. On the other hand, when you embrace vulnerability, you open yourself up to a richer, fuller existence. You allow yourself to connect deeply with others, to grow through challenges, and to discover your own strength. Vulnerability doesn't mean exposing yourself recklessly. It means being brave enough to be real, even when it's uncomfortable. So, the next time you're tempted to hide behind a mask or put up a wall, remember this: vulnerability isn't your weakness, it's your superpower. It's where your courage lives, it's where your resilience is born, and it's where your humanity shines brightest.